Welcome to the CEO 1440 show, where we look to maximize your 1,440 minutes each and every day. We talk about mortgage. We talk about real estate. We talk about all kinds of things to help you make more money, have a more enjoyable life. We've got a guest here today, occupies that iBuyer space, but I think does it a little bit different, brings a whole lot of interesting things to the table. And quite frankly, I believe if this is a program that I had known about over my whole career over the last 30 years, I would have hundreds of thousands of dollars in more commissions earned, happier clients, and probably just an overall better life. So we're welcoming Mr. Fred Bin, CEO, founder of a little company called Zoom Casa out of California.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me on today.
Hey, no problem at all. And I say little, but you guys do almost $1 billion a year. So far from little.
Yeah, we're trying to grow it. We've been at it for about 8 years now, and slowly and steady growth, and trying to develop partnerships with great agents and lenders around the country to drive their businesses.
Got it. So for the people that are on here, most of the people that listen, I get a fair amount of real estate agents. I get a lot of people in the lending space. And we hear this term iBuyer thrown around, institutional buyer. We buy ugly houses. There's a whole world of cash buyers, or I don't even know what you call them. There's like an institutional word. And I like to think of it as the lumping everything together as fast food. That could be a taco all the way to something at Five Guys. So there's a massive amount. And that's the space you play in, correct?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would consider us an iBuyer, institutional buyer. But you're right. That's a label that's really thrown around and has really lost a lot of meaning. I think the way we look at it is there's a cohort of buyers that are going to buy your home to live in it. And then there's everybody else. And the everybody else are typically profit-motivated investors that are not going to live in your home. And there's various different flavors. And we think our sauce is a little bit unique in terms of the value prop for the customer that we deliver and how we do it.
And I would agree. And we've been working together for probably going on a year now. I've been helping them with webinars and different things. So I'm very well versed in what the program is, but like I learn every single day, and I've got a 4-digit NMLS, and I had no idea what it's all about. And hopefully what I'm really hoping to do here at the end of this is we end up having a better understanding, anybody that listens through here. So here's kind of my promise to you. I'll make 2. Promise number 1, if you're a real estate agent or a lender and you listen to the whole thing, you're not going to sell any less homes or do any less mortgages. So we're not going to make any less money for you. And there's probably a good chance that you will make a little bit more. And then our second goal beyond that is just to help educate you. Clients come to you. We always want to be the authority. And when you don't know what you're talking about, it's very hard. And clients today can sniff through it a lot more. They have a higher BS detector, and ChatGPT and all those things make it even harder for you. So listen a little bit. You're probably going to make some more money. So Fred's company does iBuying, or we'll just lump it into that whole space. But I want to back up a little bit because I think your story is different than a lot of people that are in this space. I see most of them as hedge fund guys or trying to rub 2 nickels together to make a quarter, and their genesis, how the company started, was a money-making opportunity. Your story is a little bit different, going back, I don't know, probably 10 years or so, right? Yeah. Getting shot at. You got an interesting story. Can you just walk us back to, I know you're a California kid, you've lived there your whole life. You go off to college. What got us there to where we're at today?
Sure. So as a matter of background, I spent a number of years in the commercial real estate business, mostly in affordable housing. And in doing that, I cut my teeth after the global financial crisis buying bank-owned residential properties, typically large apartment communities. I started buying single-family homes and condos, and eventually kind of moved my way up to 50 to 100 unit complexes. And that's really where I caught my stride. And that business requires you to think of things at scale. So how do you buy a 50 or 100 unit building that is half vacant and needs really substantial improvements? And how do you do that and turn those units and have it occupied in 4 to 6 months in a way that you stabilize it and it becomes more of a turnkey asset? And I did that several dozen times. And I had to build systems and processes to do that at scale. And I did that with several thousand apartment units. And subsequently, started looking at single family homes, and this is back in like 2017. And I said, maybe there's an opportunity to take some of the skills that we've learned and some of the processes that we've honed and bring them back to the single family space. And we started a company called Zoom Casa. And the idea, the genesis of the business was, well, how do we take these skills, these processes, these systems, and put them back in the hands of homeowners to help them have a better realization when it comes time to sell their home. And if you look around the United States, most homes, the majority of single family homes, were built in the 70s. So now they're approaching, 50, 60 years of age, and most of them need pretty substantial improvements. And a lot of homeowners don't know what to do or how to do it. And even if they know what to do and how to do it, they don't have the money or the time or the energy to deal with it. So when it comes time to sell their home, they leave a bunch of money on the table. And we see this as a tremendous opportunity to empower consumers, to put them back in charge and put them back in the driver's seat when it comes time to sell their home, such that they're able to maximize their equity and sell their home for as much money as possible. And you mentioned that I got shot at. Yeah, I spent a number of years in affordable workforce housing and decided that I would rather be in a business where I'm helping consumers extract as much money as possible and having the best of an experience as possible when it comes time to sell their home. And that's what I've dedicated my professional life to.
Yeah, and weren't you up to 2,500 doors or something around that ballpark?
Yeah, that's we would cycle in and out of them, but yeah, I purchased and renovated several thousand apartment units for my own account, mostly up in Northern California and a handful of other states. Typically buying 50 to 200 unit complexes, and I would specialize in the operation side of it, which is how do I go in, how do I turn these units in mass and do it quickly and cost effectively, and we've taken a lot of those skills back to consumers and to what we're doing with single family homes today.
And then that morphed into, so you started selling those off. That morphed into a company that did a lot of like pre-sale prep. You'd come in and just help the seller with the renovations, those kind of things. And would you then charge a fee? Like, how did that business work? I think you still do some of that today. I don't think it's a key component of what you do, but so you morph from that into the pre-sale prep. Can you just hit kind of the highlights that you learned there? Again, you're parlaying one skill set into the next.
Yeah. So the first product, the first service that Zoom Casa launched with as a company was what we call pre-sale home prep. So we would have a team of experts, designers, project managers, basically come in and talk to a homeowner and their agent and say, we recommend you do X, Y, and Z. And these are going to be the most ROI driven improvements that we can make to maximize the resale value of your home and ensure that it sells quickly. So stuff like painting, flooring, staging, countertops, landscaping, basically high impact cosmetic improvements. And we wouldn't just tell you what to do, we would coordinate all the work. And if you wanted, we would actually pay for those vendors to do the work, and then you can pay us back when your home sells. It was more than just a financing program. It was project management, design, strategic consultation, really helping consumers figure out what should be done. And anyone that's dealt with homeowners knows someone that has had a horrific experience with a contractor. So we spent a lot of time filtering and being the buffer between vendors and homeowners to make sure it was a pleasant experience. Now, today, that standalone product is less than 5% of our business. The majority of our business today is a product that we call Cash Plus, which is a solution that is unique in the marketplace and helps consumers have the same kind of value proposition of having an expert prepare and list their home for sale, but also allows the consumer to not have to deal with it, not have to live through it, and go on with their lives.
And I think what makes you a little bit unique in that service in and of itself, the pre-sale prep, is a standalone. It's a white glove service. It's price is what you pay, value is what you get. And for anybody that's ever done renovations on their home, that is a very scary and intimidating thing to go through and hire contractors and to do all that. And I think most people just, even if they have the wherewithal and the money to do it, it's super intimidating to try and go out and do that. And you really provide a white glove service there, very similar to people pull their car into valet. It's costs a little bit more money than parking, but you don't have to walk across the lot. And I think that
Yeah,
pre-sale prep program, you guys undersell it in how valuable that expertise of actually doing that as your core business model is. I think it's one of the really exceptional value adds that you do. And the fact that you've done thousands of these really sets you ahead of the person that's just going to give somebody money there. So you still said it's still a chunk of your business. You still have like project managers. It's still something that's valuable, and you guys pride yourself on doing it.
absolutely. And that's something that we offer to our customers, especially when we buy your home. That's still a service that we use. It's the same vendors, it's the same contractors, it's the same designers, and it's a fully integrated process. And that's one of the things I think that makes us unique in the marketplace is that we're not merely a finance company. We are a solution driven from the bottom up of how do we help a homeowner maximize their equity value when it comes time to sell their home.
And that's one of your core things. I've watched other podcasts that you're on where you talk about your core belief. And when you founded the company was, how do I help? And you were, how do I help a seller flip their own home and be the one that sees the upside than some investor or somebody else coming in? How do I help the actual seller realize the greatest exit from their own property? And that's one of your core, that's what I saw as your mission statement someplace, like that's what you're trying to do.
Yep, 100%. Bingo.
So that goes through, you're doing that product. How did you end up now buying houses and taking it from the pre-sale prep to what you now call the Cash Offer Plus program? I know it had some different names throughout the years, but what was that genesis? Where did that happen that you now started buying properties? Did somebody just raise their hand and say, just buy mine? Like, how did that happen?
Pretty much. So we got really active with pre-sale home prep in 2018, 19, and just before COVID. And when COVID happened, we were in several hundred people's homes in the middle of renovation projects. And you can imagine the complexity of navigating those restrictions, especially in states like California. And one of the trends we noticed when talking to homeowners, they would love the product, they love the service, but they would always ask, hey, is there a way that I don't have to live here through this process? Or, hey, is there a way that I can unlock some of my equity so I can buy another home and not have to deal with this? And we heard it so often that we started testing various products in the marketplace. And one of them, and the one that really took off, is what we call our Cash Offer Plus product today. And what really resonated with consumers is that this was a way for them to pay off any liens on the property, unlock a portion of their equity, and not have to live through renovations or other improvements, yet still keep all the upside generated through those improvements. It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and I've seen some stats as far as just the amount of homes. You mentioned it in the beginning. There are a lot of homes, right? The boomers, people over 60 years old, own a majority of the homes. A good chunk of them are 40, 50 years old. I saw us at some place like 35% of those homes need significant work, and they just don't have the money to even do it, right? It becomes the kids' problem after they pass away. So allowing people to be proactive with what happens sooner in the transaction, I think is an awesome thing. So you started doing, that's your kind of flagship program today. And you just want to walk me quickly through how that works. I know just in a nutshell, agents bring it to you, lenders, how do people find you? How does that front end of it work? And then what's the process as it moves forward?
Sure. So we have a B2B model. So we don't deal directly with consumers. We work predominantly through real estate brokers, agents, and loan officers, as well as some other digital platforms. The product, the way it works is as follows. And what's unique about the product is that it's a structured sale. And structured is a fancy way of saying that it happens in two parts instead of one. And the reason it happens in two parts instead of one is so that we can maximize the seller's equity while still giving them the convenience and certainty of a quick cash sale. So it's complex, but it's complex for the seller's benefit. And the complexity is simple when you think about it. So there's an initial closing. That's when Zoom Casa buys the client's home. And the seller gets a percentage of their home's value upfront. And typically that's going to be somewhere around 60 to 80%. Could be more, could be less, but directionally 60 to 80. And that's based off of a third-party appraisal of the property.
hey, if you're here, it must mean that what you're listening to you don't think sucks, which is awesome. But we also have a community called the Mortgage Broker Builder Community, where every single day we try to share some sales techniques, some different skill things, maybe a system, something that you could implement in your business to do more business. My guarantee to you, if you join the group, you're not going to do any less business. So someplace in here, there will be a link for the Mortgage Broker Builder Community, completely free. Jump in there, check it out. If it sucks, you can always leave, but we look forward to seeing you in there.
With those funds, they're going to pay off their mortgage. They're going to unlock a majority of their equity, and they're going to move on to whatever they're planning to do in their home ownership journey. At that point, we go in and we make recommendations about what improvements could maximize the value of their home. And for a lot of properties, that's nothing more than painting and cleaning up and maybe doing some staging. For other properties, that's much more substantial improvement. This is a tailored, custom approach for the client's needs. And once we do that work, we list the client's home with their preferred agent. So we're not a broker. Client retains their own preferred agent who lists the home for sale. And once it sells, there's a waterfall. A waterfall, as the name suggests, means just how the money's divvied up. So first, we pay traditional closing costs and commissions just like you would in a traditional sale. Second, we, as Zoom Casa, get reimbursed the money we gave you up front, plus any improvements you had us do to the home, plus any carrying costs we incurred like property taxes or insurance. Third, we earn a fee, usually somewhere between 3 and 10%. And the reason there's a range is it depends on how long we own the home. And then any remaining money is sent back to the original seller. So if you think about it directionally, the seller is retaining north of 90% of what they would have netted had they sold their home through a traditional sale. And the way you can do that math is you say, what would I have netted in a traditional sale after commissions and closing costs? And then what is Zoom Casa's incremental fee for providing the service? And if we take somewhere between 3 and 8, sellers netting more than 90% of what they would have netted otherwise. That's directionally how it works. Now, one of the things that I think is important to evaluate our product and other products in the marketplace is historically, when it came time to sell your home, you basically had two options. And those options have not shifted in largely 60 years. Option one is you list your home with an agent. They put it on the market. They put it on the MLS. It goes on Zillow, goes on Redfin. It's a traditional sale. You do open houses, you have offers, et cetera, et cetera. The other option is you sell to an investor. And the value proposition of selling to an investor is here's a quick cash sale. You don't have to deal with improvements. You don't have to deal with showings. You have to deal with flaky buyers. There's certainty of closing, and you don't have to deal with them anymore. The trade-off, the discount, the reduction in proceeds a typical seller would receive by selling to an investor versus selling on the open market, historically, it's like north of 30%. So if you have a home that's worth $1 million, you're giving up around $300,000 selling to an investor. Could be more, could be less, but that's a good rule of thumb. Zoom Casa provides a hybrid approach where we're giving you the same kind of convenience and certainty of a quick investor cash sale, plus the ability to maximize your home sale value through strategic improvements and sell your home on the open market. So unlike a traditional investor where that investor keeps all the profit that's generated through those improvements, all that profit kicks back to the original seller. And as a hybrid approach, instead of giving up like 30% of your home value, you're giving up like 3 to 8, maybe more, maybe less, which is a heck of a lot less than 30. But it's important to remember, to the extent we're able to enhance the value of your home through strategic improvements like painting, flooring, staging, the value creation through those improvements inures to the initial seller and can offset some or all of the program costs. So it's very possible that a seller would actually net more using our program net than they would have selling with an agent on the open market.
Yeah, I think that as I look at all the houses that are out there, some homes, maybe this is right for everybody, but it's probably not, but it could be right for everyone. And if there's a house, some houses you can put, especially if you there in California, There's places where you can put 50 grand into a home and get 150 in a return just because it's the right strategic improvements. By the same token, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to put a bunch of bidets in places in Indiana, right? You may lose money. So your team and your expertise, understanding what makes sense and what doesn't, and looking at strategically, if I invest in here, am I going to get a return? I think is a great way for people to look at homes. And then you also have some other just use case scenarios. I know that I've seen some stuff on people transitioning into senior living or people that just need a quick sale because they need to qualify for their next mortgage. Or there's a lot of different reasons why people might use your program. What percentage of your deals today, so if you're out of 100 deals, what percentage close without any real major renovations? They just want you for the convenience of you coming in and buying their home.
Directionally half. It's
Okay.
not a major renovation. It's just clean up, staging. We just want simplicity. We want to be able to move on with our lives.
And anything that's like, how do you have like only particular properties you buy? I know there's some companies that won't do condos or different things. Like, what would be your buy box or whatever you would call it? I think it's called a buy box is the word you guys use.
Yeah, so a lot of folks in our industry call the types and conditions of properties we buy a buy box. Our buy box, to my knowledge, is the most expansive in the industry. We're in all 50 states. We typically have a minimum transaction value of 250,000, but we go up to a maximum of 5 million. We buy single family homes, we buy condominiums, we buy rural properties, we buy properties that need a ton of work, we buy properties that don't need any work, we buy luxury properties, we buy entry level properties, and we really look at ourselves as a solution provider. So whoever comes to us, we try in earnest to provide them the best solution possible to meet their needs.
Didn't you have a really cool house that was like you guys started a demo and it was like a Frank Lloyd Wright or one of those famous, didn't you have something like that? I've watched some podcasts of you in different places. Was there a story like that?
Yeah, we've done a lot of historic homes. One of the nice parts about being based in Los Angeles is that you've got a lot of old Hollywood properties, both in the city and in some of the vacation communities nearby. We did Elizabeth Taylor's house. We've done a handful of other historic properties that are architecturally significant. And those were always fun because a lot of it's about preservation, and it's really where our company is unique, and that there's really not another solution in the marketplace that'll work with those kind of properties.
Yeah, and one thing that I think too, I don't know if you've mentioned it or not, a lot of companies, you're not a lender, so you're not licensed. You're just a buyer of the home, correct? It's not a second mortgage that's put out there. There's no liens, none of that stuff, correct?
Yeah, to be super clear, we are not a lender. We are not a broker. We are a real estate principal. We purchase and sell single family homes and other residential properties.
And then I recently saw that you have a program this is for my loan officers out there. There's a program that a lot of people know about. I like to think of it as like this home light program where they will come in and give you a backup offer and it's non-contingent. They charge you probably know the details. I don't, but they charge you like 1.5% or a minimum of $6,000. And it's purely used as the loan officer on our end to eliminate the debt to income ratio for Fannie and Freddie. You guys have your own program there. I think it's a fraction of the cost, and I don't even know, it has a name. Tell us just a little bit about that. Do you call it Backup Plus, or what is the name?
So we rolled out a buy before you sell program last year. There is a recent feature in Fannie and Freddie loans, which is that if you are buying a property and trying to qualify for that loan, if your departing residence is under contract to a buyer and that buyer does not have a financing contingency, your loan officer can exclude the mortgage and related expenses on your departing residence for purposes of qualifying you for the purchase. As a company, we always try to innovate and offer solutions that make most sense for the customer. And late last year, we rolled out what we call our Buy Before You Sell program. And it's unique in a few different ways. One, has the most expansive buy box. So you have to have a maximum LTV of 95%. properties across price points, conditions qualify. And most importantly, it's for a fixed fee of $999. You can overcome the buy before you sell issue. And we think it's the most cost effective, simple solution in the marketplace.
In that, and I'm just thinking of use cases, right? Builders don't like to accept contracts on a new property contingent upon the sale of your home, financing contingencies. So I can see it there. I can see all kinds of places that a loan officer would just eat this up. I said in the intro, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars of lost income, but there are a lot of people that lose deals because they can't make an offer contingent. Nobody will accept their contingent offer. So that's awesome. Here's some other companies that I've heard of, a bunch of them, and I don't know how much you know about them, but like I said before, it's just spaghetti. It's like a goulash of all kinds of different companies. And I don't know what's the difference between their programs, yours, what they do. You cool with me just kind of asking these and you give me your opinion, like compare and contrast? I understand none of this is like official, but like the first one that comes to mind that I've heard of for a long time is OfferPad. What's their story? How is it different? Pros, cons? What could you say about OfferPad?
So again, I have a ton of respect for other companies in our space. OfferPad is one of the original iBuyers. Their business model historically is we'll buy your home at a discount. They'll then do a light renovation and flip it and try to make a profit on it. So they are like a traditional investor that will buy your home. And if you look at the difference between our products and theirs, is we have a much wider buy box. Those in terms of price point, geography, property condition, etc. And unlike a traditional iBuyer, we try to seek to have the homeowner participate in the value created through strategic improvements. So we'll be more aggressive than that, or is that okay?
No, I think that's good. You were cutting in and out on my side a little bit. So if I heard that, they're more or less just coming in doing part one of the buy. There is no upside on the resale. They're buying it, whatever renovations they do, they're doing on their own dime. And they also are impacting what they make their return when they sell your house for more.
Exactly. So they're like a traditional home flipper, if you will.
Okay. And I'm assuming Open Door kind of the same?
Yeah. So Open Door and OfferPad were the original iBuyers in the space. And again, iBuyer is a fancy word for a home flipper. So buy low, sell high. The major differentiator is that we have a much more expansive buy box and we service a lot of different homeowners. And critically, our mission in life is to help maximize the seller's equity. Also, unlike those folks, we're not a brokerage. We're not a settlement service company. We're not a lender. So we're able to help consumers get the best deal possible for themselves and their families.
And are they also lenders? Are they lending and doing mortgages and doing all those pieces?
It changes pretty frequently. My understanding is that they offer a comprehensive suite, which includes settlement services and mortgages.
Got it. What about Homeward?
So Homeward is a company we respect a lot. They have a product that's similar to our Cash Plus program. The major differences are the geographies in which we operate and the types of properties that we buy. So again, we have a much more expansive buy box. And our fees are a heck of a lot lower. Okay. One of the things that I think about for consumers is that we want to ensure that we maximize their equity. So we take on projects that need much more substantial improvements than any other player in the marketplace would touch. And our fees are also remarkably lower. One of the things that some players in our space have is if your home doesn't resell within 6 months, you waive your right to a second check. And I think that's wrong. So, especially when you're buying properties that might take 6 months to sell, especially in today's market. So again, I think our product is more transparent, it's more cost effective, and it's available for a much larger segment of the addressable market.
So some of the companies, if the house doesn't sell inside of a window, it's contractually, they forfeit any second check, anything at all.
Yep. So there's a lot of doublespeak in our industry. And one of the things that I'm proud of is we take great effort in being as transparent as possible.
Hey, you're still here, which means that the stuff we're talking about is of interest to you, or you're looking at growing your business. You're looking maybe at doing more, or looking for new, fresh ideas. And if that's part of your game plan, if you're open minded and want to try new things, we have a community called the Mortgage Broker Builder Community, where every single day we drop different, whether it be sales techniques, tactics, systems, different things that you can implement into your business to potentially do more. And my guarantee is if you join the community, you're not going to do any less business as a result of it. Someplace here on this page, there will be a link for the Mortgage Broker Builder Community. We look forward to seeing you in there, and welcome. Let's grow together.
Almost to a fault. And our product is totally clear. It is what it says it is. There's no hidden fees. There's no gotcha. It's not, you got to use our settlement provider and we charge you double market rate. It's clear. It's transparent. It's simple.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that it's a space that is not heavily regulated per se, maybe. So people go out and skirt the truth maybe a little bit. What about...
Well, it's funny. Investors have had a horrible reputation for decades as sharks, and they rebranded themselves as iBuyers. And now they rebranded themselves as institutional buyers. It's the same concept. I think in any market, you have folks that are seeking to use double speak and take advantage of consumers and folks that are not. And I'm proud to say that we fall in the latter camp.
And how do you vary, right? I see as I'm driving around, you see the signs all over, just that we buy ugly houses. Are those mostly like just wholesalers where somebody's just going in and making a deal? They don't actually buy it. What is the... I see them all over the place. I think they write it with magic marker on it, right? It's the homeless guy used the sign first. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What are the...
It's hard to know, man. Like, there's a big market. There's several million homes that sell every year in the United States. Some of those are going to be wholesalers. That's a whole other conversation. And some of them are going to be mom and pop flippers that are seeking to buy a home in their local market and renovate it and sell it for a profit. But they play a place in the market.
And would you say you're one of the only ones that you're in all 50 states? I know you've done transactions in most. I don't know if you've done a transaction in every state, but you've done transactions in most. Would you say you're one of the only ones like that is same size and scope, like all 50 states? I know a lot of places won't buy in particular states. They have a lot of restrictions.
To my knowledge, we have the widest buy box, both geographically and in terms of price point. We bought and sold homes in Puerto Rico, and they're in Alaska, and Hawaii. To my knowledge, all 50 states at this point. We might be missing one or two, but we're working to fix that quickly. If someone calls us and they have a need, we're going to have a solution for them.
And anybody is good. Like, I think that one of the things that you do really well is that whole pre-sale, like the involvement through the rehab part. Does anyone come close to you there? Because that's your genesis, right? That's where you started. You were doing that first, probably maybe before some of these other companies were even iBuyers.
Yeah. So there are a lot of design companies and contractors that do great work. I think that I know what's unique about us is that we're actually not a contractor. And one of the reasons we set the business up this way is we didn't want to have a conflict of interest with our customer. So if we were a contractor, it's in our best interest to advise that we do as much work as possible. So maybe instead of let's repaint the cabinets and put in new countertops, let's just gut the kitchen and redo it. So we made it an intentional decision not to be a contractor. And that really impacts how we think and how we operate. So to my knowledge, we're the only company in this space where we're not a contractor. We're not a designer. We're not a service provider. And we can sit on the same side of the table as the homeowner with the same types of incentives and ensure that they have a positive outcome.
And you go through and you buy the house. Do they have any say in what renovations are done?
They have complete say. So we cannot make any renovations without the seller's express written consent. So before we close, we come up with a scope of work that we recommend. Could be paint, could be flooring, could be more substantial improvements. And the seller has to approve or deny what they'd like to do. And after we close, we coordinate all those improvements. Now, the seller's consent is important because they're going to be impacted by what the home ultimately sells for and how much the work costs. So we want them to be part of that decision-making process.
So it sounds like a lot of the work is actually done before you buy the house. It's not like you have a pretty good understanding of what that deal is going to look like before you buy the house. What
Absolutely.
prevents you from coming in you just are concerned about your fee once you buy the house, just fire sailing it 10 days in just to get your fee back, and who cares about the second check to the seller? Do they have any say in what offer you accept after you own it? Are they still involved once you take ownership of the house?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically for the first 30 to 60 days on market, the original seller has the authority to have us decline offer. So they can say, hey, I don't want you to accept that offer. And we tie that period to what the market days on market is. For instance, in LA County today, $1 million house is probably going to be on the market for around 30 days. If we don't have an offer after 30 days, something's wrong. But if we get an offer at 10% below list price on day 3, we shouldn't take that. So we tie that to make sure that it's a positive outcome for the consumer.
Okay. So they're not just at your whim. They actually are involved
Correct.
with the process even after you're the homeowner. And I'm assuming that's all the contract. You've done this thousands of times, probably been looked at by a couple of attorneys along the way. So that, I think, is a unique point that I've seen different things on forums
100%.
and stuff. What about, there's one other one that I just wanted to ask you about, and I don't think they actually do anything themselves. I think they're more of like a tech platform, and that's Zudilio. What are they? They're just a tech platform with a bunch of different people on the back end. Is that how that works?
Yeah, so my understanding is that Zudilio is like other platforms in the market where a customer comes in, they submit their information, and that information is sold to other parties that may be interested in buying their home. And if a client elects to sell their home to one of those companies, the platform earns a fee. And there's a bunch of different buyers on there that participate in the program and who are made privy to the client's contact information, et cetera, to provide an offer. But we are a principal. We're not a platform. So when you're talking to us, it's our balance sheet, it's our capital, it's us making the underwriting decision. We're not selling your client's information. We're not referring the client to somebody else. You're working with us.
And I believe that they actually charge people a fee to be on there and to use their platform. It's kind of like a lending tree inside of this space.
Yeah. There's a bunch
do,
of platforms like that. There's no shortage of online platforms that sell consumers information.
I think of it if we are traditional mortgage space or any of that, it's a lead buyer. They're your lead gen company. In turn, they're selling it back to companies just like you. What are you really just feeling really good about? Like, where has Fred been super bullish these days?
It's hard not to be bullish on the U.S. housing market. There's so much pent up demand. There's so much inventory that's sitting on the sidelines waiting for rates to change, dynamics to shift. And we're really excited to see what the rest of this year has in store for us. I think a lot of smart folks are expecting the Fed to get more aggressive and to start cutting later this year, which hopefully will mean lower mortgage rates. There's a certain stickiness effect that mortgage rates have for sellers today. But we're excited about building day by day and helping one consumer after another have a better experience when it comes time to sell their home. And we're a big believer that if you put one foot in front of the other and you keep executing, you can build something that's really exciting. And we're thrilled to do that.
Yeah, and anybody that's here, so I help Fred and them with webinars. We run a school community where we've got a bunch of just sales strategies, different things inside of there. I'll include a link someplace here. If you want more information, you can go check things out there. But I really see the market as where home prices have gotten to. A lot of people are looking for turnkey, and a lot of people are still out listing their house as is and expecting the potential buyer to envision what it could be instead of just selling them what it should be. And a program like yours and just everything that's out there people are going to start, I believe, just gravitating more towards doing this. And you've got people with those where they're giving up small portions of their equity. Like you've got some different things happening in the real estate world that I've, being somebody on the lending side for 30 years, think that it's neat to see innovation and things work in a different way. And it's only because of technology and all of the stuff that we have going on today that more and more people are getting out there. So I think that it's neat to be able to provide more people more options, especially
I
as
think I agree with you 100%. I think it's also interesting to analogize it to the used car business, which a lot of folks used to sell their cars with a newspaper listing or put it on Facebook or Craigslist. And there are companies like CarMax or Carvana that have gotten so good at delivering a clear, tangible value proposition to the consumer that you'd almost be an idiot not to just take your car there and hand them the keys. And that's what we're seeking to do.
Yeah, I sold my last car on Carvana, my last two cars actually, and my 16-year-old drove one next to a little bit too close, drove like a 16-year-old, had this big scratch down the side. And it wasn't terrible, but Carvana, the interesting thing is that I ended up getting about $3,000 more from Carvana than I could get anywhere else, because what it sounds like they do, they have a body shop where they're employing the people. So I saw on my Ford app, I saw my car get picked up, right? I watched them put it on the trailer. They gave me my check, and then I could track it. It went to Indiana. It was there for 4 or 5 days. So they literally took it to their own factory where they had their own person that did the body work. Right? It was going to cost me $3,500. They probably did it for $500. And then my Ford app got shut off 6 days later, which I'm assuming they sold it to the next person. And so I could no longer see like when my next oil change was. But I thought that was neat. And to me, that's my first go if I have to sell a car. Yep. What will they give me? And then how much am I willing to give up? In both cases, I sold a Suburban for more money than I think I could have sold it on Facebook without having to like potentially get mugged. And I know I sold that little Bronco for more money. So I do believe that people are seeking certainty, seeking convenience. Heck, they pay twice as much for a Jimmy John's to have it delivered to their house. They can't even go to Costco anymore. I love my trips to Costco. So it's a new world that we're moving into. People have more time on their hands and they do less.
We agree with you. And the question is just what's the trade-off? And if you're going to get 97 cents on the dollar, 95 cents on the dollar, is it worth it? I think so. I would do it.
Yeah. And in the cases where they get more, it would be like Costco paying me to deliver my food. If you go through and do the renovations and you get more, it would be like I get a coupon. Oh.
That's what blew my mind. I actually ordered Costco delivered through Instacart, and it was cheaper than what I paid in the store. I don't know how it was possible. Maybe it was a typo or something.
I can actually tell you why. So this is a unique Costco story that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I'll share. I did a lot of mortgages with Costco. We ran a lending division inside of Costco years ago. So Costco on their mobile app, what you have is you have like regional prices. So you'll pick up all of California where your downtown Los Angeles, let's say Costco may have higher prices. Because inside of each Costco, they run on a P&L. The general manager of that store gets a cut. So they have different prices store to store. So your store may be, if you're in a high ticket area, it may be more expensive for certain things than, let's say, Southern California. So when you go to the Instacart app, you get the national price versus your store. For me here in Michigan, it's significantly more for me to get Instacart by Costco, like probably 20% more. I take pictures and send them to my wife. You paid this on Insta, it's for, right? Like I'm saving $6, but I'm closer to 100 than I am to 0. I grew up in the Midwest. We count dollars here. We'll shovel our own snow for 8 hours to save $40. We're weird, but it's a Midwest thing. This is what we do out here. So we talk about deer hunting. We got all kinds of things. I think it's the snow and the lack of sunshine for a lot of days, but anything that you would add for somebody that's thinking about doing this, I think you've got a very unique value prop, but is there anything that you would add, just somebody out there that's thinking about buying their house, selling their house cash, looking at their options, maybe they've got a unique problem. Is there anything you would add for them? Think about this, look at this, at least do this before you just go and sell to the first person or I don't know. Any insight you can share
Yeah,
for somebody that's done this
I'd
thousands of times?
recommend doing your research. There's a lot of doublespeak and misinformation in this space. This programs in this kind of broader, non-traditional selling space make sense for a lot of folks. They don't make sense for everybody. If you're going to look at this, talk to a live person, ask questions, read the contract, make sure you understand what you're signing up for, make sure you understand what the actual cost of the program is. Oftentimes it's not totally clear. And with that information, you can properly evaluate and make an educated decision. And for the folks that it does make sense for, it's a game changer and it's transformative and life changing.
Yeah, I see, like I said, I see a lot of use cases throughout my career where people could have benefited from this and they ended up fire saling their house for whatever reason to not lose their contingency or because it got beat up on an inspection and they had to do something. So I believe the more solutions you have to the problems you have, the better outcomes you will have. And you just need to be free to be able to pick and
I think
choose.
it also is important to talk to loan officers and real estate agents to understand that these are solutions that are in the marketplace. And increasingly, if it's not something you're familiar with, you're at a disadvantage. Now, it's not going to be right for every seller, but if you can't intelligently speak on what programs in the marketplace, what operates, and how it works, and whether it's a fit, your customer is going to go elsewhere to figure it out for you. And I think it's worth getting a little bit educated to understand what's happening.
Yeah, I've looked at how many people search, like the number of people Google searching, how do I sell my house fast?
Yeah,
And those are people that their loan officer told them you have to sell your house before you can buy a new one. And just because they don't know all of the options that are out there, I think
yeah,
loan officers probably lose as many deals due to lack of understanding of all their options than
sure.
they gain. This has been great, Fred. I appreciate you coming on. Anybody that's looking for options as far as inside of the iBuyer space, they've got somebody that maybe have a house that needs a little bit of work. We've got a school community. You can go in there and check things out, poke around, sniff around inside of there, and we'll include some links someplace here. Be able to get on a call, book a call. We'll give you lots of ways to be able to get in touch with Zoom Casa, but I would just encourage you, understand all of your options that are out there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Fred.